Hello there everybody, this is Dan Calloway, and today I'm coming at you. I want to talk about a new application that I'm running in Black Lab Enterprise Linux, which is Kubuntu 16.04 LTS. And this application is called Blue Griffon. If you're familiar with HTML editors, I've used one called Homesite 5 for many years, years ago. Blue Griffon's right up there with it. It does cost money for certain things, but it's absolutely free for somebody that wants to build a basic website. You can even upload it to a hosting service after you've built it. And today what I want to do with Blue Griffon is demonstrate a two-page website and then walk you through how it functions after I've built it. I will tell you right up front that I've been using this application probably at most 3 days, and so there's still a lot for me to learn about it. So I'm no expert in the application, but I will show you what I've learned so far. So let's get started. One of the first things that an HTML editor wants you to do is it wants you to put your web sites that you build, your web pages, if you will, and all your components, like images and sound files and other things in one place. And where I have stored those right now to get started is in my home directory, home, documents, web. This is a Linux system, okay, so that's my home directory, and then the documents folder, and then a web folder within that. And I have right now 5 images there, well, 2 files and then 3 images I'm going to be using in the website development that I build today. Okay, so that's critical that you do that ahead of time. There's a little bit of planning that you need to do. It's not absolutely necessary, but it just helps when you're working on your website. Okay, so let's get started. First thing I want to show you is if you click on Tools and come down to Preferences, that opens up a configuration screen. One of the things you can access is the license, obviously, portal, so that you can load your license and your ID if you bought a license for this application. There are parts of it, like I said, that require money, and that is the EPUB section specifically, but for everything else it's absolutely free. And then you've got other things that you can do here. I'll talk about the general real fast to show you one thing, but I'm not going to cover anything else. It's beyond the scope of this video. The theme I'm running is a light theme, and I've got that circle right there checked right now, radio button marked. If I click the black radio button, it turns it to a black theme. I prefer the light theme so far in my working with this application. You might like the black theme or the dark theme better, but light is what I'm choosing, so I'm going to put it back. I'm going to go ahead and close this. One of the other things I did within that was tell it that all files I develop for the web have a .html extension. I do know PHP. I'm a PHP programmer, so when I start working with PHP here, I will have to change that, obviously. Okay, so let's get started. One of the first things you want to do is set up your first page. You can do that in various ways. One, you can click on File, and you can click on New. Or you can come over here to this plus sign and click the plus, and that's what I'm going to do. It opens up this page, and when it opens it up, it's untitled by default. Alright, so I'm going to come up and click on this icon, which is the save icon. And when I click on it, it asks me for a name, so I'm going to give it a name of home. So it'll be home.html. When I click OK, it's going to ask me where do you want to put home.html. And so I'm going to tell it, I'm going to put it in my Data Pioneer home directory, documents folder, and then a folder where I have my images to make it all put in one place. Web, alright, and it's going to be home.html. So I'm going to click Save. Alright, and so it saves that file in that location. Alright, one of the first things I want to do next here is I want to click on the table, because I'm going to build this website based on table structure. And so I'm going to click on Table and Insert Table, and I want to start out with a 2x2 table. Alright, and so let's come over and do a 2x2 table, and so now I have a 2x2 table here. With it selected here, I'm going to go ahead and put in table and select. I'm going to select the entire table. And I want to right click and select table properties. It opens up a table properties dialog. I could have selected table here, table and table properties as well if I wanted to bring that up. Alright, so now I've got two instances open, so I need to close one. Alright, okay, so now that I've got this open, you notice that I'm on the table tab, and it says the table is taking up 100% of the real estate on the screen. I don't want that. I want 90%. And I want percentage, not pixel distance, because if you're using a smaller monitor, you have different resolution. I still want it to be 90% of whatever you're using. You can down arrow here and select something other than percent. You can do pixel, for instance, or other measurements, but I'm going to select percentage. Leave it at percentage. I'm going to apply that. Notice how it changed the entire size. We'll center that in a moment. Alright, then I want to come up, and the other thing I want to do is under layout, border, you notice I have a 1 pixel border on the table. I want to turn that off by selecting 0. Okay. Developers, especially new developers, will want to keep that at least 1 so you can see what you're doing. Although we can still see that we have tables that we're working with. Alright, then I'm going to go back to the Cells tab and ask me if I want to save what I did, and I say yes. And then I'm going to come over and I want to center everything horizontally and center everything vertically. Alright, and then click Apply and click OK. Alright, next I've still got the table selected, so I want to come over and go to, on the left, to the Alignment, Center. And now that centers the table, turns the table off, and centers the table in the center of the screen, which is what I want. Okay, now that I've done that, the next thing I want to do is I want to take these two cells and join them. And so to do that, I want to click in that cell first, hold the Shift key down, select the second cell so that we have two cells selected. And then I want to come back up to Table and select Join Cells. Alright, so now that we have join those two cells, we have one cell here and two here. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to move this over here so that 20% of the left column of that table is available here and 80% here. So this would be 80% and this would be 20%. The reason for that is I want this side of the table to be a sidebar, if you will, of the website. So let me click back in on the left, and now what I want to do is come back up to Table and Properties, Table Properties, and then I want to come to Cells, not the table, because the tables are 90%. So I want to come back over to, oops, I've dropped the Table Properties dialog, come back over to the Cells, and select it, and then come down to Size. And for width, I want a down arrow, select percentage, and then come over and make that 20%. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to make the left column 20%, and by default, the remainder will be 80% for the right column if everything works out. So let me click Apply, and then click OK. And so it didn't work. Let me try it again. Maybe I didn't select it. So select it again, and I don't think I have to select both sides, but I'll try it one more time. Table Properties. Alright, and let's go back over to Cells. And no, it didn't take it for some reason. I don't know why. Alright, and let's select 20%. So that's 20%. Well, let's apply that, and then let's click OK. Alright, so now that we have 20% of the screen of the website is on the left and 80% on the right, this is going to be the body here of my website page, or web page in this case. This is going to be the sidebar. Okay. Alright, so the first thing I want to do after I complete that is I want to click back into the right hand side, and then I want to go back out to my web folder, and I have a text file. I'm going to double click it and open it up, and I'm going to grab all of the text that's in here. So I'm going to do an edit, select all. If you're a Linux person, you'll notice this is Kate, favorite editor. And let's do copy. Alright, and so let me minimize this. And now let's minimize this as well. This is Dolphin. Alright, so we've got it in the right hand side. I want to right click and paste without formatting. Now I know that's text and it doesn't have formatting anyway, but I always do the paste without formatting just in case. Alright, so I've got text on the right, I've got the sidebar on the left. The other thing I want to do is let's go ahead and take a look at what we got so far, okay? So if I come up here, and there's a button here called Preview in your browser, and so that allows you to preview in your default web browser on your system what you currently have loaded on your web page. Okay, so this is what our web page currently looks like. All right, so let's go back to Blue Griffon. The other thing I want to do is I've got the table selected, and I want to select create a row above it because I want to put some information above that at some point. And so let me go ahead and just do it now. So let's do a table, and let's do an insert, and I want to insert row above. Alright, so that inserts the row above that table that we currently have. It's actually a part of the same table. We now inserted another row in that same table above what we currently have. Alright, so I like to save as I go along, so let me go ahead and just save so I don't lose anything. If you do make a mistake, there's an undo button here. You can do an edit, undo, and undo whatever you're doing. Some things it won't let you undo, but most things it will. Alright, so now I want to put an image right here at the beginning of this text. Alright, so I'm going to select right in front of the among, which is the first word in the paragraph, and then I want to come over, and I can either do an insert image, okay, or on the toolbar I can come over to this little picture, which is the same thing, and click image, insert image. Alright, then I'm going to click this folder and go out and find the image, and it's in the same web folder. Actually has it selected right now. It's under Data Pioneer Documents Web. Click OK. It's going to be too large, and I'll show you how to resize that. Alright, for now we'll just leave this make URL relative. Where that's important is if you want to, if you're running a web hosting service up on the web, you'll want to make sure you check that, not this, because this is just for rendering it in your browser locally. We'll leave it that way now. Alright, so let's click title, and I'm going to put my name. And then alternate text, I don't want any, so I need to check this box, allow empty alternate text. And that makes this OK button come up for me. And now let's click OK. Alright, and you notice it's way too big, so I'm going to select the image. I want to come down, get a corner of that image, and I want to proportionally drag it up so it's the size I want it. And that's the size I want it. Now notice the text isn't wrapped around the image, and that's normal. I mean, and you need to do one of two things at this point. You need to either tell the application I want to wrap that around the image, or you need to know how to do that in HTML. Now, as I told you from the get-go, I've only been working with this application for a couple of days. I do not know how to do that in the app, but I do know how to do it within HTML code, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to come down here. You do have a dual view button, which allows you to view two sides, two screens, your source code on the left and what's going on here in your image on the right. Or you can select the WYSIWYG button, which is what you see is what you get, okay, which is what you're developing inside the app. Or you can select the source and go directly to source only, okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the WYSIWYG button. What I want to do here is I want to put a padding around this image of 5 pixels top and bottom, 5 pixels left and right, okay. and then I want to wrap the text around it. All right, so to do that, and this is important, you might want to write this down or stop the video and do it. But inside, when I have it selected, it highlights what we're working with here. And you'll notice that there's an image style section, and then there's a source section as well. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is inside this style attribute, at the end of it, before we get to title, all right, I'm going to come down here, and just at the end of it here, I'm going to put a space, or actually go back and put a semicolon and a space, and then I'm going to put v space equals, quote, 5 pixels, px, okay, and then I'm going to do, that's for vertical space, and then horizontal space is equal to 5 pixels. I told you I wanted a 5 pixel padding all around, okay, and then finally I want to align the image to the left, so I'm going to do align is equal left, in quotes. Alright, I'm done with that, so let's come back. And now it's nicely done. So we have a 5 pixel padding top and bottom, 5 pixel padding on the right and left for vertical and horizontal, and then we've told it we want to push the image to the left, which automatically tells HTML wrap it. Okay, so put the image to the left, wrap everything else to the right. And so that's what we have, and that looks pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now let's go back out and let's preview again in the browser what we have. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. We've got the main page now. We've got the sidebar over here, but we really don't know it's a sidebar because we don't have anything in it yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that. Let's go back to here. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to first of all take and let me go back, click here, and I want to put another row above because I forgot to save a row for our heading. Okay, and so let me come up to table and come down to insert, and let's do another row above. All right, and then I want to select the left sidebar area, hold the shift key down, select the right sidebar area so that we've got both, come up to table just like we did before, join cells, so now we have one cell all the way across because the banner is going to go all the way across the site. Alright, so let me select back in here again, and now all I want to do is let's make sure we've got that selected. Let me go out of here, select again, let's go to insert image. I've got a banner that in my web folder that I want to use, and so that's called header.ping. Looks like this, and let me click open, and then I want to tell it to call it header, and then no alternate text, and then click OK. Alright, so it looks like this. Notice it's not centered yet though. Alright, so rather than center it, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stretch it over, and I'll have to do this probably a couple of times until I get it just the way I want it. Okay, so that's exactly the way I want it. Let's go ahead and save what we got, and let me go ahead and let's go back out and preview again in the browser. It looking pretty good. Okay, so we've got our banner, we've got our text, we've got an image in it. Alright, and so let me go and close this again. Let's go back out to the application. Alright, and so now that we've got that, let's go ahead and click in this particular area here onto the to the right here in the body, and I'm going to type in World Wide GUI processes. Okay, because this site's going to be called worldwidegui.com. Okay, I want to click back on that word. I want to come up and select the down arrow for body text and put heading 1. So it's an H1 tag. Alright, and then click in that cell, right click and table properties, And then I want to come out and I want to go to the cell itself, and I want to tell it to center it vertically and horizontally. Okay, apply that, and then click OK. And notice what it did was it centered worldwide GUI processes in that particular cell of the table, which is what I wanted it to do. Now I want to put a nice shadow on this. All right, so I'm going to select the entire thing. Now this is another feature of Blue Griffon that I need to show you, and that is if you come up to it's a table, no, view, it's not view, it's tools. Panels, that's what it is, panels. There's a style property and there is a style sheets. Now I'm not going to talk about style sheets today. That's another video. So we've got style sheets already selected. If it hadn't been selected, we need it selected. And then I'm going to come over, I want to grab this pull-out here and pull this out, okay? Now, I'm putting a shadow on this, and so I need to come down to a section called Shadow, all right? And so let me come down to, I don't see it yet. There it is. It's blue and I can barely see it. It's called Shadow. It's underneath Borders. I want to click the plus sign under Text Shadow and select New Shadow. It brings this area up. I want color selected. Here I'm going to select that radio button. And I want to select this color right here. And so I'll need to select last color. Let me do it again. Screwed up. That's what I thought I was going to do. Let me let's go back up and select it again. And then I don't need to do the last because the last one was a white one. Let's click OK. So that puts that shadow on it. All right. Now I want to, for horizontal offset, I want to select the down arrow and select pixels and come over and select 5 pixels. And then vertical offset, I want to select the down arrow, select this, and then come over and select 5 pixels as well. And then I also want a blur radius of 5 pixels, so I'm going to select the down arrow. And then I want to select pixel. And then I want to come in here and select 5. Alright, and that should have popped up something here on this box, which it did not. I don't know, I understand why it didn't do that. I must have something wrong here. We'll take a look at it and see if it actually did it. It did it. Okay. Alright, so we close that out. We don't need to worry about it. Alright, so what it did was it put a nice shadow. Normally it gives me a chance to put an ID number in there, so I must have done something wrong. But we got a nice shadow there behind the worldwide GUI processes, which is what I wanted. And so that's how we did that. Now if we want to go back out and look at it, we can. And so let's take a look at that now. See what we have. Looking pretty good. Alright, so we need to put something over here on the right hand side, and to do that we need to create a second page, because that's what I'm going to link to that second page. Alright, but before I do that, let me go ahead and go down to the bottom. I forgot something here, and let me select the table, and let me do a table insert row below. Alright, and then let's go ahead and select the left cell, hold the shift key down, right cell, table, join cells. Alright, so we got that one cell range, and let's go ahead and let me type in some information here. Well, actually, first of all, let me put a color in here. Let me do a table properties, and then cell background color, and let's select the dark blue. I like the dark blue. This is going to be the footer of our site. And then we're going to click OK. And we're going to apply and OK to apply the settings. Okay, so now we have our footer on the bottom. Okay, so let's come back up. Alright, and so now we're going to create that second page. Now to do that, we can either come back over here and click the plus sign, or do a file, new page, okay, or you can also come over and hit this plus sign to create a new page. Alright, and it's going to ask you, what do you want it to be? So I want it to be an HTML5 page, and I want it to be similar to the current document. Alright, and that creates something that's similar to the current document. Okay, now we haven't named it yet, it's still untitled here, and so let's go ahead and click on Save Page, and I'm going to call this GUI processes.html, or GUI process.html. Alright, so let's click OK. It's going to ask me where do you want to put it. I want to put it in the same area that the home.html is. So let's click Save. Alright, next thing I want to do is go ahead and let's create another table cell here. Let's create a table. So let's do table, insert table. And this is going to be a one cell table. Alright, and then what I'm going to do is I want to go into the table again, right click and table properties. Showing you how to use table properties a lot today. Go into the cell and let's click there. Let's click center here for horizontal and vertical. Alright, and let's click apply and OK. Okay, let's come up to table and let's do select table. So we have the entire table selected. Let's right click and table properties again, and then let's go over and on the table tab let's tell it to do a 90% again instead of 100. Okay, let's click apply and OK. Alright, and then let's do table select again, select table. This is important to do this, by the way. And let's select center. Alright, so we've centered that. Alright, so let's get back in. So now we click in there, it should be in the center. I want to put an image in there. So I'm going to come up to Image, Insert Image. Come over to the folder, select it, and I want to insert the design process ping file that I have. It looks like this. Okay, and so let's click OK, and I'm going to call this a design process. The title, no alternate text, and then click OK, and so we have that centered on our page. Okay. Come down to the bottom. I want to hit the enter key twice, and now I want to put a horizontal rule in here to separate it from what I'm going to put below it, and so I want to do an insert horizontal rule or bar, call it rule. I'm going to use the shadow here. I want the width of that rule to be 80% of the screen. Okay, and so I'm going to select percentage. I'm going to come over in front of the 0, put an 8. I want the weight of that to be a certain number of points, and so point, and I'm going to put probably 1 point. Okay, and now let's click OK. Alright, and so it looks like this. Alright, and then the cursor's at the bottom here. Alright, so let's come down and one more enter key, so one more space down, and so I'm going to insert a video here. Okay, now you would think that you would just say insert video, okay, which you can do if you're inserting a video from a location, either a file location or some poster. Okay, I'm not doing that. I'm using some embed code here, so I can't do it this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back out to the source, and where I'm selected right now, I'm going to come up just above the BR tag, all right, and then hit the enter key. I want to come out to Kate, and I want to close the text file that I had. I want to come over to the embed code file, open that up, and then I want to edit and select all, and then I want to right click and say copy. Alright, let me minimize this, get it out of the way, and go ahead and minimize this as well. And then I want to, where I've got this selected right now, just I had it selected, there it is. I want to just simply do a shift, or control rather, V, to copy that code into that space. Okay, let's go back out to the WYSIWYG view. What you see is what you get, and it's going to pop up that window. Now it's going to look like there's an error because it says an error has occurred. Don't worry about that. When it's rendered in the browser, it'll be fine. And so let me come out to the right of it, and let me do 2 more spaces, and let me just type the word home, and I'll show you how to. This is our video now, and so I'm going to have a home tag here, URL reference, a link, if you will, back to the home page. So I'm going to select home, and I'm going to come up and do insert and link. Okay, there's also an icon there to do the same thing. The link I want to insert is, let me click the folder and come over, and I want to go back to the home page, and so home.html is what I want selected. Click OK, and then I want to, for the title, I want it to be home page. That's for the advisory. It's not absolutely necessary, but you can go ahead and put it in anyway. Click OK, and so now we've got our home tag in there as well. I'm going to go ahead and save this page again. Okay, let's go out and look at it. Now this is what it looks like. Okay, and if we scroll down, there's the video. Okay, so it looks fine, and then there's the home tag. All right, with a link back to the home page. All right, so let's go back out to the GUI, or back to the application. Let's go back over to the home page. Okay, and let's put that link in there for the link back to the second page. So I'm going to click in here. I'm going to right click. I want it to be at the top, so I'm going to select Table Properties, and I'm going to click on Cell tab, and I want the vertical, I want the horizontal to be centered, but I want the vertical not to be centered but top. Okay, and so I'll hit top and OK, and so that puts the cursor at the top. Alright, so now I want to go over and put that image into that area, and that is the image for the GUI process. And I'm going to use a hyperlink to an image rather than to text, and if you're familiar with web design, that's called a hotspot. And so I will select the GUI design ping, alright, and then click OK. Now it's going to be way too big when it comes out, and we'll resize it. And so this is going to be called GUI process. No alternate text. Click it here, OK, and so that's way too big, so let's scroll down, and let me select it at the bottom here, and let me bring it up. Oh wait a minute, it's actually further up, and I went down too far. So let me come back up again and select it, and there we go. Come over, and so let's bring it in. Let's bring it to roughly that size, maybe a little bit smaller than that. So we don't want to destroy our 20%. Okay, so that looks about right. Okay, and so now with it selected, I want to click on the link, and I want to select the folder where I want to link it to. I want to link it to the GUI process.html file. Click Open. And then, again, you would select this, make the URL relative if you're doing it to the web or to a server. Alright, so now I want to title it GUI process. Okay, and then I want to click OK. Alright, so now that we've got that, got our hotspot set up, let me go ahead and save the page again. And let's go out to the web now and preview it. Actually, we're looking at it locally on the browser. This is what our website looks like. It looks pretty good. Text with an image there on the left. We've got a left and right. We've got a sidebar. We've got a banner. We've got the title above it that's shadowed. We have our footer at the bottom. We've got, this may be a little bit too large, but I can make it smaller. But notice that when I place my pointer inside, it turns into a hand because it now is a hotspot. It takes me out to the design process site, which is the second page. And notice it opened it up in a new tab. Alright, and so, or actually did not open in a new tab, should not have, and it didn't. And so we come down to the bottom. Here's my video. So let me go ahead and see if it'll play. That's a YouTube video. Looks like it's playing just fine. Alright, select it. And didn't need to do that. Okay, close that. Let's close that. Get back to our page. And then let's go back down. Let's see if our home link here works. And it takes us back to the home page. So this was totally successful. So this is Blue Griffon. I mean, it's a website that I developed here in short order. But it looks pretty good, actually. It's a static website. I mean, I could use animated GIFs on this if I wanted to. But the jewel here is going to be able to work with PHP to make this an active page and interactive with the user. And that's going to be something that's easy to do since I'm a PHP programmer. So I can just develop the page not as a .html, but as a .php and just inject PHP code into the HTML itself and work with it. So this has been a demonstration of building a website, basic website, two-page website here in this particular instance in Blue Griffon. Blue Griffon, an application that's in version 2.3.x right now. Most of the videos you see on the web are version 1. There are major differences between the two versions. Hope you enjoyed the video and leave me comments. Have a nice